Every town has a story people prefer to forget. A house that stands too still. A voice that should not exist. For Sarah and her son Ethan, the past was supposed to stay buried beneath the basement floor. But when the boy began speaking to a neighbor no one had ever seen, the whispers returned. Some say imagination keeps children safe. Others say it opens doors that should never be opened. This is not just a haunting, it's a memory that refused to die. If you love a story that gets under your skin, stick around. We're about to unlock a door that's been sealed for a reason. Hey, Tere, welcome to Shadows of Tales. I'm here to help you unwind and relax tonight, and I'm really glad you chose to spend these moments with me. Before you get too cozy, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what we create here. Your support means a lot, but your comfort always comes first. Feel free to drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you right now. It is always fascinating to see our little community connecting from different corners of the world. It reminds us that even in the quietest, darkest moments, none of us are truly alone. I hope you'll give this video a chance, because I truly believe you won't find stories quite like these anywhere else. Every tale here is crafted to help you drift into the night with ease. A mix of calm, mystery, and a touch of shadow. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan or a soft lamp. Take a deep breath, let the day fade away, and let's begin our story together. When Ethan and his mother first arrived at the old countryside house, everything felt almost unnervingly ordinary. The air was quiet, thick with the scent of damp earth and aging wood, a stark contrast to the city noise they'd left behind. But beneath that surface of tranquility, something felt heavy, as if the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. It was a feeling Ethan couldn't quite shake, a sense of being watched by unseen eyes in the empty rooms. That first evening, while unpacking boxers in the dimly lit living room, Ethan's flashlight beam caught on something strange. Tucked away beneath the main staircase was a small, almost forgotten door, caked in layers of dust and cobwebs. It was out of place, seemingly leading to nowhere. Curiosity piqued, he called out, "Mom, what's behind this little door?" His mother, distracted by a stack of books, answered without even looking up, "That's just the basement, sweetheart. It's been sealed for years. Just leave it alone, okay?" But as her words hung in the air, a faint, yet distinct sound echoed from the other side. A soft, deliberate knock. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He forced a nervous laugh. "Mom, did you hear that?" His mother dismissed it with a wave of her hand. "It's just the pipes. Honey, old houses like this are always making strange noises. You'll get used to it." She turned back to her boxes, but as the silence settled once more, a second softer knock answered him from behind the door, as if in direct response. Ethan stood frozen, the flashlight trembling in his hand. He was certain it wasn't the pipes. Later that night, sleep wouldn't come. Rain pattered against his window pane, a gentle rhythm that usually soothed. But tonight, it only amplified the silence of the house. And then it started again. 3 slow, methodical beats, rising from the floor beneath his bed. The knocking, this time, it was clearer, more insistent. Gathering all his courage, Ethan leaned over the edge of his bed and whispered into the darkness, "Hello." The silence stretched for a long moment, and he almost convinced himself he'd imagined Italiano. Then, a voice replied, calm and surprisingly friendly, with a slight echo as if coming from a large, empty space. "Hello there. Are you the new boy?" Ethan jolted upright, his eyes wide. He fumbled for his flashlight on the nightstand, its beam cutting through the oppressive darkness. Who's there?" he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. The voice replied, its tone warm and reassuring, "I'm your neighbor. I live just downstairs." Ethan frowned, completely bewildered. His mother's words echoed in his mind. There's no one downstairs. The basement is sealed." A gentle, almost paternal laugh came from below. "Oh, but there is," the voice said kindly. "You just haven't opened the door for me yet." Just then, a brilliant flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed by a loud clap of thunder. Ethan's flashlight flickered and died, plunging him into total darkness. Terrified, he dove under his blanket, pulling it tight over his head as if it could protect him. His heart hammered against his ribs. Trembling, he whispered one last question into the fabric of his cocoon. "What's your name?" The voice answered immediately, its tone unchanged. "You can call me Mr. Gray." It's very nice to finally meet you, Ethan. A cold dread washed over the boy. He had never told the voice his name. The next morning felt surreal. Sunlight streamed into the kitchen, a stark contrast to the chilling darkness of the night before. His mother was humming to herself as she made coffee, the picture of normalcy. But Ethan couldn't shake the feeling of unease. He sat silently at the table, staring into his empty bowl of cereal. "You look exhausted," his mother said, her cheerful tone grating on his nerves. "Did you have bad dreams again?" Ethan looked up, his eyes heavy. "I talked to him," he sighed flatly. "I talked to the man who lives downstairs." His mother stopped stirring her coffee. The spoon clinked against the ceramic mug, the only sound in the suddenly tense room. She turned to face him, forcing a small, tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan, we've talked about this. There is no one downstairs. The basement is completely sealed shut. You know that." It was just a dream. But as she finished her sentence, the sound returned. 3 slow, distinct knocks, echoing faintly but unmistakably from the direction of the living room. Ethan's head snapped toward the stairs, his breath catching in his throat. He looked back at his mother, waiting for any sign of recognition, any flicker of alarm. But she didn't react. She just took a sip of her coffee, her expression unchanged. And in that quiet, sunlit moment, Ethan learned a terrifying truth that he could never explain. The house was old, yes, but it was not empty. As he sat there, paralyzed by a fear only he could feel, a faint whisper seemed to drift on the air, a chilling echo of the night before. "Good night, Ethan." He knew, with a certainty that chilled him to the bone, that Mr. Gray was listening, and he was waiting. That night, Ethan waited. He wasn't afraid, not yet. For him, curiosity had always been a stronger force than fear. He sat bolt upright in his bed, the beam of his flashlight cutting a nervous circle on the floorboards. He took a breath, the air thick with the silence, left by the departed rain. The only sounds were the steady tick-tock of his alarm clock, and the low hum of the wind wrapping itself around the old house. He leaned forward, his voice barely a whisper in the quiet room. "Mr. Gray, are you there?" The silence stretched for a moment, and just as Ethan started to think he'd imagined it all, a voice answered from below. It wasn't loud or scary, but steady and gentle, rising from beneath the floor. "Of course, Ethan. I told you I'm always here." Ethan's heart gave a little jump, not of fear, but of excitement. He had a secret, a real, live secret living right under his bed. "But why can't I see you?" he asked, his eyes scanning the wooden planks as if he could will them to become transparent. A faint, dry chuckle seemed to drift up through the floor. "Because it's better that way. The dark keeps us safe. It keeps us listening." Intrigued, Ethan slid off his bed and pressed his ear to the cold floorboards, the grain of the wood imprinting on his cheek. He felt closer to the voice this way. "Do you live alone down there?" he whispered, imagining a hidden world just inches beneath him. "No, not alone," Mr. Gray replied, his voice soft and thoughtful. "There are memories here and echoes. You'll understand soon." Ethan frowned. Memories, echoes. It sounded like a riddle from one of his storybooks. He didn't understand, but he wanted to. As he mulled over the words, a small, distinct creak echoed from below his feet, as if something had shifted in the dark. The next evening, and the one after that, the voice returned. It was always there, waiting for him, patient and strangely comforting. With every whispered conversation, the large, empty house began to feel a little less lonely. The creaks and groans of the old building no longer sounded like a monster stirring in its sleep. Now, they sounded like Mr. Gray, his unseen friend, moving about his day. One evening, instead of going to his bedroom, Ethan found himself crouched by the basement door in the hallway. The setting sun cast long shadows down the corridor, and the door stood silent and imposing. In his hand, he clutched a small, red toy car, its wheels worn from countless races across his bedroom floor. He pressed his lips close to the gap at the bottom of the door. "I brought you something," he announced proudly. "It's my favorite toy." A moment passed, and then Mr. Gray's voice, pleased and warm, drifted up. "That's very kind. Leave it by the door. I'll keep it safe for you." With a sense of ceremony, Ethan carefully slid the toy car under the door. It vanished into the darkness on the other side, with a faint scraping sound. His eyes widened. "Did you get it?" he asked, his voice filled with excited anticipation. "Yes," came the reply. Thank you, Ethan. You're a good friend. Ethan beamed, a wide, secret smile just for himself and the dark space behind the door. He sat there for a long moment, simply enjoying the feeling of having a friend who appreciated his gifts. Then, a thought that had been nagging at him surfaced. Mr. Gray, he began, his tone more serious. Why does Mom say no one's down there? She says the basement is just for storage. The voice on the other side grew quieter, taking on a somber, almost sad quality. She doesn't remember. People forget things when they're too painful to keep. Ethan tilted his head, confused. How could someone forget a person living in their own house? It didn't make any sense. But the way Mr. Gray said it made it sound important, like another piece of the puzzle he was slowly putting together. Later that night, the house was dim and quiet. The only light came from the small lamp over the kitchen sink, where his mother stood washing dishes, her back to him. Ethan sat at the kitchen table, a piece of paper and a box of crayons spread before him. He was drawing, concentrating hard, his tongue sticking out from the corner of his mouth. His mother dried her hands on a towel and turned a tired smile on her face. Drawing again? What's that you're making? Ethan held up his creation. It was a simple, childlike drawing of a tall, shadowy figure standing beneath the floor. It's Mr. Gray, he said matter-of-factly, my neighbor from downstairs. Her smile vanished instantly. Her eyes darted from the drawing to the hallway, where a sliver of darkness showed that the basement door was slightly ajar. A sudden tension filled the air. Ethan. That door should be closed, she said, her voice tight. Did you open it? No, he answered honestly. It was like that when I came for dinner. She walked swiftly down the hall, her footsteps firm on the wooden floor. She pushed the door shut, and the sound of the lock clicking into place was unnaturally loud in the quiet house. As she turned away, a faint sound seemed to follow her whisper, so low it was almost imperceptible. It sounded like two voices at once, overlapping, one deep and one childlike, murmuring together from behind the locked door. That night, Ethan's dreams were strange and unsettling. He dreamed of a man with no face, a figure made of shifting shadows, sitting just behind a wall. The man was whispering his name, over and over, the sound echoing in a dark, empty space. Asterisk, Ethan. 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 Asterisk, he woke with a start, the whispered name still ringing in his ears. The first light of dawn was filtering through his window, painting the room in shades of gray. He sat up, his heart pounding, a cold feeling creeping over him. His eyes scanned the room, landing on the spot where he'd last seen his favorite red toy car. It was gone. As he stared at the empty space on his shelf, a new sound cut through the morning quiet. It came from the floor beneath him. A single, soft knock, and then a whisper, faint but clear, slithered up through the floorboards. Good morning, Ethan. The wind is howling outside, isn't it? Like the old house is groaning under the weight of its own secrets. Let's talk about one of those secrets tonight. Let's talk about Ethan. Imagine this, a dimly lit hallway, the only light from a single, flickering lamp. A storm is brewing outside, soft thunder rolling in the distance. A young boy, Ethan, is kneeling by the basement door. This isn't the first time he's been here. In fact, it's become a nightly ritual. He brings gifts to the one who lives below. Every night, he'd leave something new by the crack under the door. One night, a shiny marble. The next, a chocolate chip cookie, saved from his dessert. Another time, a little red toy car. And every single morning, without fail, the item would be gone. Vanished without a trace, without a sound. Ethan stopped questioning it long ago. He just accepted it. But tonight is different. Tonight, he holds something special. A small, pocket-sized mirror, the glass cracked in one corner. He kneels, the old floorboards creaking under his weight. He holds the mirror close to his lips, his voice a soft whisper carried on the dusty air. I brought this for you, Mr. Gray. You can see yourself with it. He slides the mirror under the door, pushing it gently until it disappears into the darkness on the other side. Then, silence. A heavy, thick silence, where the only sound is the frantic drumming of Ethan's own heart against his ribs. The thunder outside seems to hold its breath. Just as he starts to think nothing will happen, a sound breaks the quiet, a soft, scraping noise from behind the door. Slow, deliberate, the sound of something being dragged across a concrete floor. Then, a voice. It's soft, raspy, like dry leaves, skittering across pavement. I can see you instead, Ethan. You've grown braver. Ethan's breath catches in his throat. His eyes widen. He leans closer to the door, his voice barely a squeak. You can see me? Through the mirror. The voice from the darkness chuckles, a low, hollow sound that seems to vibrate through the floorboards. Yes, your look. Just like him. A new kind of chill, colder than the draft from under the door, snakes up Ethan's spine. Like who? He asks, his curiosity overriding his fear. The silence that follows is long and heavy with unspoken sorrow. When the voice finally returns, it's gentle, but filled with an ancient, cavernous emptiness. Someone I lost. The lamp in the hallway flickers violently, casting dancing shadows that twist and writhe on the walls. For a fleeting second, Ethan sees his own reflection on the polished brass door, but it's distorted, shimmering, as if something behind the door, on the other side, is moving, looking back at him. He scrambles backward, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his chest. He doesn't know what to feel anymore. Fear, or a strange, aching pity for the lonely voice in the dark. The next morning arrives gray and cold, the storm having passed, leaving a damp chill in its wake. Ethan finds his mother in the kitchen, standing at the stove. The smell of oatmeal fills the air. She's stirring a pot, her movements rhythmic and practiced. She glances at him as he shuffles into the room. You're quiet today. Didn't sleep well. Ethan hesitates. Then the words tumble out. Mr. Gray says he can see me now. Her hand freezes mid. The spoon hovers over the pot, a drop of oatmeal clinging to its tip. She turns to face him, her expression tight. Ethan, there's no one down there. We've talked about this. Stop this game, please. But he's real, Mom, Ethan insists, his voice pleading. He talks to me every night. He's lonely. He misses people. She forces a smile, a brittle thing that doesn't reach her eyes. She tries to keep her voice gentle, but a tremor runs through it. Sweetheart, sometimes when we're lonely, our minds play tricks on us. We are things. We imagine things. It doesn't mean they're real. Before Ethan can argue, a sound cuts through the kitchen quiet, a faint but distinct tapping, echoing from deep within the house's plumbing. 3 rhythmic knocks. Clear, sharp, deliberate. His mother's eyes dart upward, toward the ceiling, her face pulling. The fear in her eyes is real, undeniable. But she says nothing. She just stands there, frozen, until the sound stops, as abruptly as it began. The day drags on, filled with unspoken tension. That night, as Ethan lies in his bed, the house settles into its usual nocturnal groans. But a new sound joins the symphony. A whisper. It's not coming from the basement door this time. It's closer, much closer. It's coming from the wall right beside his bed. The voice is the same, soft and dry like autumn leaves. Did your mother like the mirror, Ethan? Ethan sits bolt upright in bed, his blanket pulling around his waist. His room is pitch black, but the voice feels like it's right next to his ear. How do you know about that? He stammers, his heart trying to escape his chest. A soft, gentle laugh echoes from the darkness, a sound that is both comforting and deeply unsettling. I see what you see, Ethan. I hear what you hear. Ethan slowly turns his head toward the wall. In the faint moonlight filtering through his window, he sees something impossible. The floral pattern on the wallpaper seems to be moving, pulsing gently, rhythmically, like something on the other side is breathing. Are you inside the walls? He whispers, the question hanging in the suffocatingly still air. Inside, the voice confirms. Beneath, around. We share this house. Remember, Ethan? A strange impulse takes hold of the boy. He reaches out a trembling hand, his fingers outstretched. He presses his palm flat against the cold, papered wall. For a terrifying, heart-stopping moment, he feels the surface push back against his hand, a firm, undeniable pressure. Then, just as quickly, it's gone. The wall is just a wall again, cold and still. Ethan doesn't sleep for the rest of the night. He lies awake until the first gray light of dawn spills into his room, listening to the faint, steady rhythm of breathing that seems to come from somewhere deep within the very bones of the house. Steady, patient, alive, and he knows, with a certainty that chills him to his core, that he is no longer alone. Inevitwash. What do you think happened to the person Mr. Gray lost? And what does he want with Ethan? Let me know your theories in the comments below. This story is just getting started. and it's going to get a whole lot darker. The morning light crept through the curtains, pale and thin. The house smelled of dust and something faintly metallic. I sat at the kitchen table, my eyes heavy and dark from another sleepless night. The tapping had finally stopped, but something else had taken its place, a faint, earthy smell that drifted up through the floorboards. It came and went, like a slow breath from below. My mother walked into the kitchen, her nose wrinkling. "Ethan, did you spill something in the basement hall? It smells like dirt." I shook my head, keeping my eyes on the wood grain of the table. "It's not me. It's Mr. Gray. He said he was cleaning." Her expression froze for just a moment before she forced a smile, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "There's no Mr. Gray, sweetheart. Stop saying that name." She went to the window and pushed it open. A rush of cold morning air filled the room, but it couldn't erase the smell. It clung to the air, stubborn and unsettling. That night, I lay awake, staring at the shadows on my ceiling. The faint scent of soil returned, stronger this time, damp, old, and mixed with something cloyingly sweet, like flowers left to rot. The air in my room felt heavier, pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. I couldn't just lie there. "Primera de turno." I slipped out of bed, my bare feet silent on the cold floor. I followed the smell through the dark, winding hallway, each step pulling me closer until I stood once again before the basement door. This time, there was no frantic tapping. Instead, a soft, rhythmic knocking came from the other side. It was slow and patient, as if it knew I would come. A voice, quiet and muffled by the wood, whispered my name. "Thank you for the mirror, Ethan. It's beautiful. I cleaned it for you." It was Mr. Gray. I knelt down, my heart pounding against my ribs, and my fingers brushed against the cold wood of the door. "Why does it smell like the ground?" I whispered back, "Like outside." There was a long pause, so long, I thought, he'd gone. Then, his voice returned, still a quiet murmur. "Because I'm making space. There's not much room down here." A soft, scraping sound followed his words, like handfuls of soil being moved. It was a deep, muffled sound, but it was undeniably real. My breath caught in my throat. "Are you digging?" "Yes," he replied. "The earth remembers. Ethy. Everything buried still breathes." I pressed my ear against the door, desperate to understand. Behind the thick wood, something shifted, a slow, wet, deliberate sound that made my skin crawl. I flinched back, scrambling away from the door, my mind racine. What was he doing down there? What did he mean? Making space. The questions echoed in the silent hallway as I retreated to my room, but sleep offered no escape. The next morning, the smell was no longer faint. It was a thick, oppressive presence that filled the entire house. It clung to the kitchen, the stairs, even my clothes. My mother spent the whole day in a frenzy, searching for the source. She opened every window, burned scented candles until they were just puddles of wax, and scrubbed the floors with harsh chemicals. But nothing worked. The smell of damp earth only grew stronger. Finally, in desperation, she lifted the edge of the woven rug near the basement door. And then she froze. The wooden floorboards beneath were darker than the rest, stained and damp. A small, dark crack ran along one of the planks, and from it the smell rose up, thick and raw. She turned to me, her eyes wide with a fear she could no longer hide. Her voice was just a whisper. "What did you do, Ethan?" I stared at the damp floor, then at the locked basement door. A chill ran down my spine. "I didn't do anything," I said, my voice shaking. "He did." That night, the rain came back, pounding against the roof, each drop like a drumbeat, counting down to something terrible. The storm seemed to feed the smell, making it stronger with every gust of wind that rattled the windows. Sleep was impossible. The air was so thick with the scent of wet soil and something like rust that it felt like I was breathing in the grave itself. Then, from the hallway, the sound started again. Not knocking this time. It was the sound of a shovel hitting dirt. A slow, steady, rhythmic digging. He was still at it. I crept out of my room, each step heavier than the last, drawn by a horrifying curiosity. The digging sound grew louder as I approached the basement door. I stood before it, my hand hovering over the doorknob, my body trembling. "Mr. Gray," I whispered into the darkness. The digging stopped. For a moment, there was only the sound of the rain and my own ragged breathing. Then I heard it. breathing. It wasn't coming from behind the door. It was closer. It sounded like it was right behind the wall next to me. Then his voice came. Not from the basement, but from the very air around me. It was soft and kind, almost proud. I found something, Ethan. Something beautiful. I'll show you soon. The air was thick with the scent of wet soil and decay. I stared at the door, then at the wall, too afraid to move, too curious to run. The breathing continued deep, steady, and terrifyingly human. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just stood there in the dark hallway and listened, waiting for the morning I was no longer sure would come. The rain hasn't stopped for 3 days. It's a constant drumming against the windows, a low hum that vibrates through the walls. Everything in this house feels heavy, old. I haven't slept. For 3 nights, I've sat here at the kitchen table, just staring down the hallway at the basement door. My coffee went cold. Hours ago, I can smell it again. That faint scent of damp soil, like something freshly dug up. It's not mold. It's not wet wood. It's deeper. It's the smell of the earth itself. Finally, I can't take it anymore. I stand up, grab the flashlight from the counter, and walk towards that door. My slippers make these soft, brushing sounds on the old floorboards, but every step seems to creak louder than the last. When I reach the door, I see it. That small crack along the floorboards. It's wider than it was yesterday. The wood looks soft, almost swollen, like something is pushing up from below. I kneel down, my hand trembling as I touch the edge. The soil underneath is damp and warm. Then I feel Italiano, a faint thud from below. Not loud, but heavy enough to feel it through my knees. My breath I grab the doorknob, turn it. But it won't move. It feels jammed, or held shut from the inside. Ethan, I whisper, my voice cracking. No answer. I wait, listening, then press my ear against the cold wood. En primera, ire, Italiano. Breathing. Slow, deliberate, impossibly deep. Who's there? I can barely get the words out. The breathing stops, and then a voice, smooth and polite, muffled by the door, but undeniably real. You should rest, Sarah. You don't sound well. My entire body freezes. He knows my name. Who are you? What do you want from my son? A low chuckle echoes from behind the door. Want? No. I only keep him company. He listens to me. You used to listen to... My heart is a drum against my ribs. What are you talking about? You've forgotten, haven't you? The voice says, almost sadly. The walls remember better than you. I stumble backward, dropping the flashlight. The beam spins wildly across the hallway before sputtering out, leaving me in the dim light. I scramble back upstairs, my mind racing. When I burst into Ethan's room, he's already awake, sitting upright in his bed. His face is pale, but he's so calm. Ethan, I told you not to talk to it. Whatever that thing is, it's dangerous. He just looks at me, his eyes empty. He's not dangerous. He's lonely. He said he knows you. I shake my head, backing away. Don't say that. Don't you dare say that. His voice is quiet, almost detached. He said you used to play down there when you were little, that he helped you find things your mother hid. My lips part, but no sound comes out. The room suddenly feels smaller, the air thick and heavy. How do you know that? I whisper. He told me. Ethan says simply. He told me you stopped listening to him after your brother disappeared. A suffocating silence falls between us, broken only by the relentless rain. I turn and run from the room, my hands trembling uncontrollably. I don't stop until I reach the living room, gasping for breath, trying to get air into my lungs. On the wall, one of the framed photos has fallen to the floor. I pick it up. It's a picture of me, as a little girl, standing right near the basement door. And behind, just barely visible in the shadows, is the faint outline of a man's face. My hand starts to shake. I drop the frame, the glass shattering. That night, I decided to seal the basement for good. I dragged an old, heavy cabinet in front of the door, stacked boxers against it, and hammered nails into the frame until my hands were raw. I didn't care how it looked. I just wanted it closed. But when I woke up just before dawn, a cold dread washed over me. Everything was different. The cabinet was moved, slid a good 2 feet away from the door. The nails I'd hammered in were gone, not pried out, but cleanly removed, as if they were unscrewed from the inside. I feel something crunch under my foot. I look down and see it. The cracked piece of mirror Ethan had taken down to Mr. Gray, lying face up on the floor. I pick it up carefully. My reflection shimmers, warped by the crack. And just for a second, behind my shoulder, I see movement. I whip around, nothing. Then, a whisper. So close. You shouldn't have sealed the door, Sarah. You made it harder for me to breathe. My eyes dart around the room. The voice. It isn't coming from the door anymore. It's coming from inside the wall, close enough that I can feel the plaster vibrate. Stay away from my son, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. The whisper comes again, soft and chilling. He belongs here. Like you. Like me. I run to Ethan's room. He's sitting by the window, watching the rain, humming a tune I've never heard before. Pack your things, I tell him, my voice frantic. We're leaving now. Do you understand me? Now? He turns his head so slowly, his expression completely blank. He said, you can't leave. He said the house won't let you. Stop saying that, I scream. But as the words leave my mouth, the entire house seems to groan in protest. A deep, wrenching creak travels through the beams on the floor, as if something vast and heavy is shifting beneath us. The light flickers once, twice, and then goes out, plunging us into darkness. Ethan doesn't move. In the blackness, his voice is terrifyingly calm. He's coming up tonight, he says. It's time. Time for what? I whisper into the dark. There's no answer. Only the soft trickling sound of soil falling through the crack in the floor, and beneath it, the faintest sound of someone whispering my childhood name. The storm has finally passed, but the silence it left behind is heavier than any thunder. Night presses against the windows, a suffocating darkness. Inside, every light is on, a futile attempt to push back the shadows that seem to be seeping in from the walls themselves. I haven't spoken to my son, Ethan, since this morning. He hasn't eaten, hasn't asked for anything. He just sits by the basement door, staring. The smell of rich, dark earth is everywhere now, a suffocating perfume that comes from the air vents, the cracks in the floorboards, everywhere. I keep whispering to myself, it's not real. It's just old pipes. Just the storm. Just this ocean. But it's a lie, and I know it. At 2:30 in the morning, the old hallway clock just stops. The ticking silence is replaced by a low hum, a vibration that seems to thrum up through the floor, like a heartbeat. And then it comes. A knock, slow, deliberate, 3 times, from the basement door. Ethan turns his head. A slow, unnerving movement. He said it's time, he whispers, his voice barely audible. No, I say, my own voice trembling. No one's going down there. Not again. Ethan looks at me, his eyes wide and empty. He said he's already here. Before I can even process his words, the lights flicker, once, twice, then dim to a sickly amber glow. The hallway suddenly seems to stretch into an impossible length, the shadows at the far end twisting and moving as if they're breathing. I grab Ethan's arm, my nails digging into his skin. We're leaving. Right now. Get your shoes. I yank open the front door, desperate for the outside world, for anything but this house. But the night is wrong. The fog is a solid wall, swirling in thick, slow spirals. The familiar trees across the yard are just gone, replaced by shifting shapes of pure darkness. I slam the door, my breath catching in my throat. It's just fog, I whisper, trying to convince myself. It's just fog. A voice, layered and echoing, slithers from the very walls around me. No, Sarah. It's the earth waking up. It remembers you. You spin around. The voice isn't coming from the basement anymore. It's in the room with me. Ethan is standing stock still, staring into the deep shadow beside the couch. He's here, he says. Something shifts in the corner of my eye, a ripple in the air, as if the darkness itself has just taken a step forward. It resolves into the shape of a man tall, indistinct, his features blurred behind a thin veil of shifting gray. You sealed the door, the voice says calmly. You locked the ground. But it doesn't matter. The house has many ways to open. I back away, pulling Ethan behind me. Stay away from him, I plead, my voice shaking. The shape seems to almost smile. You think I came for him? No, Sarah. I came for you. You left me here a long time ago. My mind is racing, scrambling for an explanation. I don't know you. I never did. He takes another step, and the shape becomes clearer. His hands are pale, his fingers long and caked with dirt, as if he just clawed his way out of the ground. Do you remember the field behind your old house? He asks, softly. The day your brother fell in the well? You ran for help, but I was the one who called you back. My breath catches in my chest. A memory, buried for decades, breaks the surface. That was years ago. I was 6. You heard me then, too, he continues. You promised you'd never forget me. Ethan looks up at me, his small face a mask of confusion and fear. You knew him. Tears well in my eyes, hot and shameful. No, I whisper. I thought I made him up. He was an imaginary friend. The air grows frigid. The floorboards creak under an unseen weight. The smell of a freshly dug grave fills my lungs, thick and choking. I waited here, Sarah, Mr. Gray says, his voice a caress of cold air. All these years, I whispered through the cracks. I fed the house with your fear. And then you brought him your son and I had someone to talk to again. The walls around us groan, a deep, guttural sound. Dust falls from the ceiling like fine, gray ash. Ethan grabs my hand, his small body trembling violently. Mom, make him stop. But I'm frozen. The voice is inside my head now, a horrifying echo that resonates with my own heartbeat. You can leave, if you wish, it says gently, but not together. One must stay. I pull Ethan into a fierce embrace, tears streaming down my face. No one stays. I scream at the shadow. You hear me? No one. The shadow flickers, and the house shudders with a violent jolt. A deep crack spiders across the ceiling above us. The lights explode in a shower of sparks, plunging us into absolute darkness. A gust of freezing air, smelling of graves and rot, surges through the hallway. And then the whispering begins. Thousands of voices, overlapping, echoing from every direction. Some are crying, some are laughing, and some are calling my name. Through the cacophony, his voice rises, clear and triumphant. You made the house, Sarah. You gave it life. You buried your memories here. The floor trembles. In the suffocating dark, I hear Ethan's terrified voice. Mom, what's happening? I hold him tighter, whispering the only words I can find. Don't listen. Close your ears. Don't listen to him. But he does. And the whisper grows louder. Sound a wind howling, which suddenly cuts to dead silence. A low, persistent hum is faintly audible. The wind outside has stopped. The air inside the house is still, as if even the air itself is waiting. I'm sitting on the floor, holding Ethan so tightly, my knuckles are white. The lamp flickers, throwing dancing, uneven shadows across the walls. I can see the cracks running through the plaster like dark veins. The smell of soil fills the room, thick and wet, and that low hum beneath the floor just won't stop. It's like a heartbeat trapped inside the very bones of this house. Ethan whispers, his small voice barely breaking the silence. He says it's time to tell the truth. I press a trembling finger to my lips. Don't listen to him, I plead, my voice shaking. But he's not angry, Ethan says, his eyes wide and innocent. He said, you'll feel better when you remember. My face goes pale. I can feel the blood draining from it. I shake my head slowly, my own eyes glistening with unshed tears. Remember what, Ethan? What does he want me to remember? But it's not Ethan who answers. A voice comes, deep, and echoing from the walls and the floor beneath us fills the room. The night you left me. The hole in the garden, the promise you broke. My breath catches in my throat. The words are a punch to the gut, stealing the air from my lungs. No. I manage, my voice weak, a thread of sound. No, that's not real. I was just a child. So was I. The words hit me like a blast of cold wind. Images flash through my mind, the backyard of my childhood home. Moonlight spilling onto damp, overturned soil. A voice whispering from a dark pit. I see my own small hands, trembling as they held the broken lantern. The scent of iron and rain fills my senses, and I can almost hear the sound of someone breathing, struggling, beneath the earth. Stop it, I scream, covering my ears. Stop talking, but the voice doesn't stop. It grows softer, closer, more intimate. You used to play with me. You told me secrets. You said we'd never be apart. And when I asked you to help me out, you buried me instead. I'm shaking violently, rocking back and forth. It was an accident, I sob. It wasn't you. It was the storm. The ground collapsed. You sealed the door. The voice cuts in, mercilessly. You walked away. Ethan's small, fragile voice cuts through the suffocating tension. Mom, who is he? I look at him, my child, and my lips tremble. My eyes feel distant, lost in a memory I've tried to bury for a lifetime. When I was your age, I begin softly. I had a friend. I thought he was imaginary. He used to talk to me at night, through the vent in my room. I thought it was all pretend. But one night, my brother went missing. We were playing near the old cellar, and I heard his voice from inside. I thought it was the same friend. I thought it was Mr. Gray. I swallow hard, my voice breaking. I tried to help him. I tried to dig, but the ground kept falling in. I got scared. I ran. And when they found the cellar days later, it was full of water. The entire house seems to sigh, a long, mournful exhalation of decades of silence. You left me there, Sarah, the voice says, no longer echoing, but speaking as if from within the walls themselves. The water turned to mud, the mud turned to stone. But I learned to speak through it. I learned to wait. The walls seemed to pulse faintly, a subtle, rhythmic movement, like something inside them is alive. Ethan's eyes are wide. He said he forgave you. Tears are streaming down my face now. No, Ethan. That's not forgiveness. He's trying to make you. My words are cut off by a deep, resonant crack that echoes through the house. The floorboards beneath us begin to bend, swelling upward from below. Dark, wet dirt starts to seep through the gaps, spreading in slow, sinister lines across the wood. The humming grows louder, deeper, almost like the sound of something breathing. I was buried under your guilt, Sarah. The voice in every nail, every beam in this house carries it. You built me back into the world when you came home. I stumble backward as a faint, cold light begins to glow from beneath the living room floor. It's a pale, blue shimmer that pulses in time with the humming, like a grotesque, otherworldly heartbeat. Ethan stares at it. He's waiting down there, he whispers. He says I can bring him back. I grab him by the shoulders, my desperation making me frantic. No! You don't understand. He's not human. Not anymore. Ethan looks at me, his expression calm, his eyes quiet. But you made him? Say simply. You made him stay. He slips from my grasp and walks toward the basement door. It's hanging half open now, breathing out a chilling draft that smells like graves after a heavy rain. Ethik, please don't go. I plead, my voice raw with terror. Itoran stoma. And for a moment, his eyes seem ancient, far older than they should be. He says you'll feel better once I help him. Don't listen to him. I cry out, Elietome. He is lying to you. The house begins to shake violently. The lights flicker wildly, plunging us into momentary darkness before flaring back to life. From below, there's a deafening sound of rushing water, of shifting soil, of wood cracking and splintering apart. The voice is calm amidst the chaos. You can't hide from what you buried. The truth always finds its way to the surface. I collapse to my knees as the air turns ice. My breath fogs in front of my face. The sound beneath the floor grows louder and louder. Something is moving upward. Slow, heavy, and deliberate. Then, a voice, right behind my ear. It's soft and horribly, terrifyingly human. Do you remember how it felt, Sarah? He whispers. The dirt on your hands. I scream. The floor splits open. Ethan is consumed by a blinding, blue light that erupts from the basement. And then, silence. Utter and complete. All that remains is a slow, steady drip of water somewhere in the darkness and the faint, lingering scent of rain-soaked earth. Sound of water dripping, slow and hollow. A faint, uneven heartbeat begins, whispering, as if narrating a ghost story. Have you ever felt like your past isn't just a memory, but something buried right beneath your feet, waiting to pull you back down? Imagine this. Darkness, the only sound is water dripping, and a faint heartbeat that isn't your own. This is where Sarah wakes up. The floor of her basement has collapsed into a pit of mud and splintered wood. The storm that raged outside is gone. Bat down airy, the air is thick, damp, and heavy with the smell of rot. She opens her eyes, her hands trembling against cold stone. The light from the world above is gone. All she can see is a strange, pale blue shimmer coming from beneath the mud. She calls out, her voice weak and cracking. "Ethan, where are you?" There's no answer, only the quiet, unsettling sound of shifting soil, like something is crawling just beneath the surface. She tries to get up, but a sharp pain shoots through her leg. It's twisted, broken, and bleeding. Ignoring the agony, she starts to drag herself toward that faint blue light, her fingers sinking into the cold, wet earth. She whispers to herself, a desperate prayer. "Please, not again. Don't take him." But she's not alone. A voice rises around her, soft and echoing, as if the air itself is speaking. "You never buried me deep enough, Sarah." The voice is chillingly familiar. "I was always close. I've always been here, under your house, under your life." Sarah clutches her head, a scream tearing from her throat as she cries into the oppressive darkness. "What do you want from me? What else can I give?" The ground itself seems to answer, pulsing with a faint light. Shapes begin to form in the dirt, hands, faces, fleeting fragments of old memories. The sound of a boy's laughter echoes, followed by a child's cry. A name whispered too many times in the dead of night. The voice continues, its tone patient, almost sad. "I want you to see, to remember everything you've forgotten." Just then, the mud shifts and opens like a grotesque mouth, and within that eerie blue light, she sees him. Her son, Ethan. He's motionless, lying in a shallow pool of water. His skin is unnaturally pale, his lips blue. "No, no, no. Please." Sarah crawls to him, sobs, racking her body. She lifts his head, her tears falling onto his cold face. "Wake up, baby. Please wake up." His eyelids flutter open, but when he speaks, it's not his voice. It's the voice from the walls, from the very earth beneath them. "You promised me forever." Sarah freezes, pure horror washing over her. "No, that's not you." The thing wearing her son's face smiles faintly. "Why did you come back, Sarah? You built this house over my grave. You raised your son above the bones you left behind. You thought these walls would hold me. But every night, you whispered my name in your sleep." Sarah shakes her head violently, pressing her hands over her ears as if to block out the truth. "I didn't mean to. I was a child. I was scared." The walls of the pit begin to pulse again, mud and water flowing like blood down the sides. The blue light intensifies, revealing something on the stone walls. Crude, childish drawings. 2 stick figures holding hands. Between them, a dark hole in the ground, and beneath it all, a smiling face scratched into the stone. The voice, Mr. Gray, speaks softly, a final, devastating revelation. "You tried to forget me, so I became the part of you that remembers." Sarah gasps, the pieces clicking into place with sickening clarity. "You're not real. You're me." The entity looks at her through her son's eyes. "And he," it says, gesturing to Ethan's body, "is us." At that moment, the light swells, filling the entire space. Ethan's eyes open fully, and they glow with that same haunting blue light, reflecting the cracks in the wall, the same faint pulse of the earth. He speaks, his voice now calm, serene, and utterly terrifying. "It's okay, Mom. We can be together now." Sarah pulls him close, weeping uncontrollably, her whispered apologies lost in the shifting mud. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The mud beneath them begins to rise, no longer just dirt, but a living thing. It wraps around their legs, their arms, their faces. The cold is immense, but it's almost gentle. As they sink, the ghostly voice fades away. Home is where the past is buried. The blue light flickers and dies, plunging them into absolute black. The heartbeat slows, and then stops. Complete silence. Then, ever so faintly, the sound of rain begins to fall once more. Weeks later, the house stands empty, eerily quiet. The basement has been sealed with freshly poured concrete. A for-sale sign sways in the wind, a silent testament to the tragedy. Inside, in the corner of the dusty living room, lies a child's drawing. 2 stick figures, holding hands, standing above a small, black pit. All is still, but if you listen closely, from deep beneath the new floor, a faint sound can be heard, a whisper, hopeful and lonely. Hello, is someone there? This story is a chilling reminder that some things, once buried, refuse to stay dead. What do you think happened to Sarah and Ethan? Was it a ghost or a manifestation of her own guilt? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoy stories that get under your skin, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. Thanks for watching, and try not to think about what might be buried under your own floor.